Two households, both bringing in $140,000 a year combined, dual income, professional jobs, the kind of number that sounds like it should solve everything. One of them still checks their account nervously before rent is due. The other hasn't felt that specific kind of dread in 4 years. Same income, same tax bracket, same city. And here's the part that confuses almost everyone who hears it. The household that still feels broke isn't reckless, isn't bad with money, and isn't secretly earning less than they claim. They're caught in something that doesn't have a catchy name. But I'm going to give it one anyway, because once you can name it, you can actually see it happening in your own life. I call it the almost rich trap. And it explains why so many high earners feel exactly as financially stressed as people making half what they do. I'm Ellie, and I make videos about the numbers behind the decisions everyone assumes are obvious, but usually aren't. If you've ever made genuinely good money and still felt tight every single month, confused about where it all goes, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why that happens. And it's not a personal failing. Hit subscribe if that sounds useful. Let's get into it. Here's the thesis of this entire video. High earners don't escape the structural trap that keeps people financially stressed. The trap just changes shape and gets more expensive. At lower incomes, the trap is about survival: rent, groceries, gas. At higher incomes, the trap is about identity: the mortgage that matches your job title, the car that matches your neighborhood, the vacations and private school, and dinners out that all feel less like luxuries and more like requirements once you're in a certain income bracket. The dollar amounts change completely. The structural mechanism, spending rising in lockstep with income until the margin looks the same as it always did, doesn't change at all. Let's meet the household that's still stuck. Marcus and Elena, both 34, combined income $140,000, dual professional careers, 3 years into home ownership. 4 years ago, their combined income was $90,000, and it's worth walking through exactly how they got from there to here, because the raise itself was never the problem. What happened to it was, in year 1, a modest raise brought them to about $105,000 combined. That year, they upgraded from a 1-bedroom rental to a small starter home, a completely reasonable decision on its own, with a mortgage of about $2,200, roughly $600 more than their previous rent. In year 2, another raise brought them to around $120,000, and that was the year they each replaced an aging car, reasoning that 2 working professionals commuting to 2 different jobs genuinely needed reliable vehicles, adding about $500 a month in combined payments. In year 3, their daughter was born, and by the time she turned 2, the public preschool waitlist in their district hadn't moved, so they enrolled her in a private program at $1,100 a month, a decision that felt less like a choice and more like a necessity once they were living it. This year, their 4th year, a final raise brought them to the full $140,000, and they moved into a slightly larger home in a better school zone, pushing the mortgage to $3,100, reasoning that they'd finally earned the kind of home that matched where they now were in their careers. Each of these 4 decisions, made 1 year at a time, felt completely reasonable in isolation. None of them was reckless. None of them involved a splurge purchase or an obvious financial mistake. But stacked together, across 4 years, they absorbed nearly the entire $50,000 increase in income, leaving Marcus and Elena with fixed monthly obligations, mortgage, 2 car payments, preschool, insurance, utilities, and baseline groceries that now total around $6,200. On a combined $140,000, after taxes, they're bringing home roughly $9,200 a month. Subtract the $6,200 in fixed obligations, and they have $3,000 left, which sounds substantial until you count actual discretionary spending, additional groceries beyond the baseline, clothing, gifts, the incidental costs of 2 working professionals with a toddler, which routinely eats another $2,200. That leaves $800 a month with no specific destination, which is exactly enough to feel like there should be more room than there actually is, and exactly not enough to feel like real financial breathing space. Marcus and Elena earn more than double the median household income in their metro area, and they feel, on a monthly basis, almost exactly as financially tight as they did 4 years ago. earning $90,000 combined before any of the raises that got them here. Now let's meet Priya and David. Same combined income, $140,000, same age, same city, 3 years into home ownership as well. 4 years ago, their combined income was also $90,000, the identical starting point as Marcus and Elena. Here's where their numbers diverge, and it's worth walking through precisely, because the difference isn't willpower. It's a decision they made early and stuck to deliberately. When their combined income was still $90,000 4 years ago, they sat down and picked a number, not a maximum they could technically afford, a number they decided was enough, regardless of what future raises might unlock. They call it their lifestyle ceiling, and they set it at $70,000 a year in total household spending, meaning every dollar earned above that number, starting immediately, would go somewhere other than lifestyle expansion before they'd even decided exactly where. Across the same 4 years, as their income rose through the identical stages Marcus and Elena experienced, a bigger raise, a growing family, opportunities to upgrade, Priya and David kept returning to the same question before each decision. Does this fit inside $70,000 or does it push us above it? Their mortgage is $2,400 in a smaller home than Marcus and Elena's, in a neighborhood one notch below what their income could technically stretch to support. One car payment? $320 because David drives a 6-year-old sedan he bought with cash, and Priya's car is paid off entirely. Public school for their son, 0 additional cost, chosen deliberately rather than by default, even when a well-meaning relative suggested private school, since they could clearly afford it now. Their fixed obligations land around $3,900 a month. On that same $140,000 combined, after taxes, they bring home the same, roughly $9,200 a month. Subtract $3,900 in fixed obligations, subtract another $1,800 in discretionary spending, still a comfortable amount, groceries, some dining out, activities for their son, and their total monthly spending lands around $5,700, just under their $70,000 annual ceiling. That leaves $3,500 left every single month with an actual destination. Retirement accounts, a taxable investment account, and a genuine emergency fund that's already fully funded. Here's where the difference between these two households becomes impossible to ignore. 8 months ago, both families faced nearly identical emergencies within weeks of each other, a roof leak requiring repair, quoted at roughly $2,500. Marcus and Elena had no dedicated fund for this. Their $800 a month of unallocated cash had already been absorbed by smaller unexpected costs throughout the year, a broken appliance, a higher than usual medical copay, birthday travel. They put the roof repair on a credit card at an interest rate around 22%, and 8 months later, they're still paying it down, with roughly $400 of the original $2,500 now representing accumulated interest rather than the actual repair. Priya and David paid the same $2,500 repair directly from their emergency fund, replenished it over the following 2 months from their regular monthly surplus, and paid $0 in interest. Same shock, same dollar amount. Completely different financial outcome, entirely explained by whether a surplus existed to absorb it. This is why earning more, the advice almost everyone gives someone who feels financially stressed, so often fails to fix anything at this income level and can sometimes make it worse. When a raise arrives without a predetermined ceiling in place, the natural response is to solve immediate discomfort, a cramped apartment, an unreliable car, by upgrading to something that matches the new number. Each individual upgrade feels completely reasonable in isolation. A family earning $140,000 combined objectively can afford a nicer car than one earning $90,000. But reasonable individual decisions, made without a ceiling, compound into a household that's earned significantly more money while feeling exactly as squeezed as before, because the squeeze was never about the income level. It was about the gap, or lack of one, between income and lifestyle. So how do you actually set a lifestyle ceiling, concretely, rather than just deciding in the abstract to spend less? Start by calculating your current total annual spending, everything, fixed and discretionary, over the last 12 months, using actual bank and card statements rather than a guess. Round that number down slightly, not up, and that becomes your ceiling for at least the next year. regardless of any raise that arrives during that period. When a raise does arrive, the entire increase gets automatically redirected, ideally through an automatic transfer set up the same day the raise takes effect, into savings or investments before it ever reaches a checking account you actively spend from. This single step, automating the redirection before the money becomes visible, matters enormously, because Priya and David didn't simply have more willpower than Marcus and Elena in the moment of each individual purchase decision. They removed the decision entirely by moving the money before it became a live option to spend. Revisit the ceiling roughly once a year, not to raise it reflexively alongside your income, but to ask honestly whether your actual quality of life would improve by raising it, or whether the improvement would be more about status than substance. Sometimes the honest answer is yes. A genuinely larger family needs more space. A longer commute justifies a better car. But that should be a deliberate, examined decision, not something that happens automatically the moment a bigger number appears in a bank account. Marcus and Elena aren't failing at something Priya and David succeeded at through better discipline in some abstract sense. Every decision they made, the house, the cars, the preschool, was individually defensible, even reasonable, for their income level. Nobody sat them down and asked them to set a number in advance and defend every dollar above it against that number. Priya and David did exactly that 4 years ago at the exact same $90,000 starting income before the raises even happened, which is precisely why the raises functioned completely differently for each household, despite being identical in size and starting point. If you're currently earning good money and still feel financially tight every month, here's what I want you to take from this. The problem probably isn't your income, and it's very likely not a personal failing either. It's almost certainly that your lifestyle has been quietly rising to match your income in real time, decision by individually reasonable decision, without you ever picking a number and deciding that anything earned above it goes somewhere else first. Setting a genuine lifestyle ceiling, a specific number you commit to before the next raise arrives, not after, is the actual mechanism that determines whether a raise makes your life easier or just makes your version of financially stressed slightly more expensive. If this helped you understand why high earners can still feel broke, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos that run the numbers nobody else bothers to run.